cruel all there is, just to lose you again.
Welcome back to Bandwagon fans. This is Jeff, and tonight I'm going to be talking about the sci-fi movie Replicas. But before we talk about the movie, just want to take a moment to invite everybody to, if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the like button. Just send some positive vibes my way. So Replicas is a sci-fi movie directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff, starring Keanu Reeves and Alice Eve. And this is the story of a scientist who is working on transferring consciousness from just recently deceased people to robots or androids, and what happens when you, and the consequences of that act of playing God. So take a moment now to enjoy some of the highlights from the trailer, then we'll be back to talk about the movie.
The human mind.
Forever.
My life's work.
Daddy!
That's what makes us.
You have kids that love you and a wife that adores you.
Time is mine, remember.
And we have scientists.
I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. I am this close.
Never has anyone been more.
There was a crash. You and the kids died. I brought you back.
There is a reason human cloning is banned.
I'm dead.
What if something horrible goes wrong?
Something already has.
This has got way out of hand. I hope you're ready to go to jail. The experiment's over, Bill.
No, it isn't.
All right, so that was some highlights for Replicas. Now, before I really get into the movie, a few months ago, Scott Griesel and I were talking about Tully. You can go ahead and check that out on the channel. And one of the things that Scott had mentioned was he knew from the very first frame of the movie, the way it was set up, what the sensibilities of the filmmakers were, the director, and he knew from the very first frame that he was going to like this movie, or Tully. Replicas had the same kind of effect with me, but complete opposite direction. You know, first frame of the movie it's an approach shot on a island beach with the jungle right behind the beach, and then Black Hawk comes into frame flying towards this island, and it was the most poorly rendered Black Hawk. It looked like something out of Hurricane Heist or the original N64 GoldenEye. It was inexcusably bad, which told me that this movie was rushed, and the studio didn't actually give them time to finish this movie or the budget, and there were a few technical issues throughout the movie that reinforced this idea. So from the very opening frame, and quite honestly from the trailer, I had pretty low expectations going into this. So the question is, did the movie ultimately win me over? Not quite. So this is starring Keanu Reeves and Alice Eve, and so Keanu plays a doctor or a scientist who is working on transferring human consciousness from recently deceased soldiers into robots that looks like, they almost look like crash test dummies, just real high-tech crash test dummies. And the corporation he's working for is losing patience with him. None of his experiments are working. He's getting incrementally closer, but it's ultimately not working. And then there's the night where his wife, played by Alice Eve, and the 3 children all die in a tragic car accident. So we have a Pet Sematary moment where he knows he has the ability to bring them back to life. And of course he does, because otherwise we wouldn't have a movie. He enlists the aid of his friend Ed, played by Thomas Middleditch. And Thomas Middleditch works with him on the consciousness transferring, but also does human cloning on the side or something. It's kind of a strange mix, but we can look over that. And they end up in Keanu Reeves' basement creating new bodies and then transferring the consciousness of his deceased loved ones into these new bodies. And overall, the concept of the movie was its strongest suit. This could have been a classic Twilight Zone episode, really strong sci-fi, where science meets morality. The biggest problem was it layered so many questions on top of each other that you didn't have time to answer one question before the next one was being posed. For example, there's the question of, is it ethical to take somebody who's been deceased, who just died, and kind of bring them back to life, but in a completely different form without their consent? And if you do so, is it ethical to then kill the thing or person you just recreated? And both those questions got introduced like one on top of the other, and then they came back to a little bit, but other questions kept getting introduced. And it would have worked had the movie ended in a way that actually dealt with those questions. The performances were all solid. These are all solid actors. You can't really fault anybody in that. There was one, John Ortiz, comes in, and he played Keanu Reeves' boss, just the jerk who's got his thumb down on him, pressuring him to get this project done. His character, although he didn't play it over the top, it was kind of written as kind of over the top. But again, all the actors did the best with the material they had. It's the fault isn't in the performances. It feels like there was one concept for the movie going in, and somebody got cold feet and said, we got to make it more audience friendly. So the third act dumbs down all the questions they had. So it's like, having all these balls in the air, and somebody just came in and said, no, we're not going to be a juggler. We're just going to go drive race cars. Because the third act just turned into a cliched action thriller. Really had tonally and the genre had nothing to do with the rest of the movie, and really is the biggest reason why the movie was a letdown overall. They kind of shoot all the questions, went straight into an action thriller, and just the movie really fell apart at that point. A lot of the technical issues could have been overlooked. Is just, sometimes that just happens, but having the entire third act be, quite frankly, just kind of wasted my time. Just really just made the whole movie not worthwhile at all. So overall, strong performances, solid performances, not strong. A really strong concept. Hopefully will be made into another movie at some point, and those themes explored a little bit more, especially as our own technology advances and these questions are going to start becoming reality. Really good use of comparing future ethical questions to current ethical questions. At what point is there a difference between resuscitating someone versus cloning a whole new body? Like, where does that line exist? The movie asks those questions, ultimately tries to fail to answer them. So, excuse me, I'm a little bit congested right now. So if I sound a little gross, that's what's going on. So, anyways, Replicas, Keanu Reeves, Alice Eve, decent movie, worth watching on Netflix. Definitely don't go out to the theater to see it. It's just not worth it. So, thanks for watching. If you liked, go ahead and hit that like button again, subscribe, and I'm Jeff. Get on the bandwagon.